What up, folks? Welcome to the panel screening birthday situation. I'm Sekou Wrights. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a professional creative. I do a bunch of different things. But right now, tonight, I'm a filmmaker, and it's my birthday. So wish me happy birthday. I see people checking in. Appreciate you. Feel free to drop comments in the chat box, and we'll respond to those as we can. What we're going to do first is play the film in case you haven't seen it yet. And for the folks who saw it a while ago, we just want to refresh you. So we're going to play the film. That's only going to be 10 minutes. And then right after that, I'll come back with all the panelists and we'll get into it. We're going to have a fun discussion. So I'll see you here in just a second. Stay tuned.
I know you were in Nashville at one point test driving again, and you and your friend were accosted by the police there.
This happened not long after the verdicts came down for Mike Brown and Eric Garner. And like a lot of people, I was upset by the verdicts. I had already done Mommy on the Move, which was about Black women driving these cars. And I wanted to do Black men at first just to show intelligent, articulate Black men, period. I felt like that was a media image that needed to be out there, that people out there in the world needed to see Black men being smart. My second decision was to ask my first interviewee to wear a hoodie in silent homage to Trayvon Martin. We weren't going to talk about it. We were just going to have him wear this hoodie. He actually did not own a hoodie. We had to go to Walmart the day of the shoot and buy one because he's a three-piece suit, bow tie, pocket square kind of guy, very well dressed. So anyway, we did that. And a few minutes into us taking pictures of him standing next to the vehicle, before we even started the shoot per se, we were accosted by these two white men who were not police officers, who had no position of authority. They just didn't like, I guess, the optics of these two Black men, one of whom was in a hoodie, in this vacant lot. And they came to challenge us about where we were and why we were there and what we were doing. Then one of them started reaching under his sweatshirt as if he had a gun. It got worse before it got better, because then once we calmed down and they calmed down, then they started trying to sell us things that were stereotypically Black, like barbecue ribs, pork chops. When they finally left, we couldn't do what we set out to do, which was talk about the car, because we were too upset.
Yes.
So I asked him on camera to tell me about what just happened.
Man, we're sitting out there getting to make some shots of the car, and the guy walks up, white male, certainly uneducated, began to try to sell us items that were of interest, that he thought might be of interest to a Black male, a car with rims on it that is sitting in his family's home or property behind the home in the woods. Just a really unsettling piece with him. I've been reading a book called White Like Me by Tim Wise. And one of the things that Tim Wise mentions is that there is just this natural piece of privilege and comfort that comes with having been born white in America. And what Tim Wise was suggesting actually showed in that young man this morning, that because he was white, because he was male, I think he felt comfortable with being in a natural position of authority. Me being a Black male and having a son really causes a little fear that any Black male it could be probable that they could have that same kind of confrontation. It makes me really concerned about what people think of us because of maybe just some other images in the media. Not necessarily who we actually are, but what they think we may be. My son had a substitute teacher a couple of days ago, he and I were talking about the image that we present of ourselves, and he was telling me how his substitute teacher was pretty hard on him throughout the day, making him not talk, making him sit down. And he kept saying that even the moments that she was telling him not to talk, it was when he was answering questions for the class or when he had gotten up to maybe go sharpen a pencil, that she was really hard on him, as he thought, unnecessarily. By the end of the day, the teacher said to him, "Hey, you're nothing like what I thought you were." He said to me that he didn't understand what that meant until he and I were having a conversation about what we present of ourselves to others, and how we dress makes an unknown statement to others because of what has been presented to them, and maybe images in the media or what they've just come to understand of race, period. Substitute teacher who did not know that he's a straight A student. Substitute teacher who does not know that he just generally likes history, period. That this substitute teacher was mistreating him based on just how he looked. So it made me really concerned about what conversations I am not having with my children that I need to constantly make sure that I am having. Just making sure that they're more aware of the statement that they're making solely by the attire that they choose in the mornings. I remember being asked while I was at Morehouse College in a class in poli-sci, why do black people riot if what has gone on around the country was the same situation that I experienced in the 90s with Rodney King? It wasn't that we decided to burn our own neighborhoods. It was that we were actually pushed into our own neighborhoods by the police departments. And there we were allowed to explode in our own anger, which leads me to my second point. Anger really never has a position of logic, or it's not meant to be rational. When you're angry, you normally respond in irrational ways. In rioting and burning our neighborhoods, we're not doing it because it makes sense. We're doing it because we're angry, we're bothered. And not angry just because of the recent situation. This has been a piece that has been boiling inside minorities for, who knows, decades. Decades in my case, probably centuries among generations. Because not much has changed. Never really gave hoodies a whole lot of thought until all of the things that were happening with black men in our country and police officers. My personal feeling about hoodies, they're actually quite comfortable, especially when I put the hood on itself. I really wonder if people can see me or what they, may think of me if I'm trying to hide as opposed to trying to keep warm.
Okay, so that was Test Driving While Black. I see people are putting comments in. Here's one from Stephanie. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. We all have our own stories. I appreciate it, Stephanie. So I'm going to start bringing the folks in one by one. And I think we're having some technical difficulties, so we're going to try to work it out. So I'm going to bring you in first, Roz.
Hello.
Hey, Roz, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Moderator for the evening. She's going to be holding it down. You're the creator of Murphy Muse. You've been great to me. You've had me on your show many times, and you're like a non-profiteer and a film producer. And what else you got going, Roz? What you doing?
Well, thank you so much. Yes, I love having you on Murphy Muse, and my company is Murphy Media 360, and I produce films, and I'm also a curator and as producer.
All
And
right.
I'm really looking forward to celebrating with you this evening and talking about your film.
I appreciate it. All right, let's bring in Miss Lisa Simmons. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Founder, creator of the Roxbury International Film Festival, which is going on right now. This is the second time that Test Driving While Black has been in the festival. First as a very rough cut, and now as a more polished version, I hope.
Yeah.
So tell us how people can get involved with the Roxbury Film Festival right now.
Right now, we have 2 more days of screenings. It's we're doing online screenings. It's roxfilmfest.com. It's all the information, panel discussions, Q&A, live Q&As, and some really great films for Friday and Saturday. So happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. And there's the website down at the bottom for you folks to check it out. All right. And Christian Roshan, what's happening? What's happening? So I've been on a million test drives with Christian. We're on that blogger test drive circuit. And so I'm hoping that she's going to have some things to say about that test drive life. But tell us about what you do, how you get down, Miss International Celebrity Blogger.
You're far too kind. Hey guys, my name is Kristen Roshan of CandidlyKristen.com, formerly of Divas and Dorks and DivasDrivingHeels.com. So I've been writing about automotive from a female's perspective for a little bit over 10 years now, and I'm really excited to, join in the discussion.
That's what's up. All right, Mr. Maurice Wilkie, let me bring you in. All right, DJ Mo, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
We got you. DJ Mo is the creator of Saturday Love, a weekly radio show in Boston on 98.1 The Urban Heat.
I actually want to stop you. Yeah, it used to be on 98.1, but it actually definitely just streams right now, heat981fm.com.
Okay. So when I was on 98.1 FM.
Yes.
I'm claiming FM numbers. So I was a frequent guest. We talked about cars and we talked about pop culture. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for being here. Now, last but not least, I'm bringing in the star of the film who's been having technical difficulties. Let's see if we can get him in. Rush, you there? Can we hear you? Say something. Oh, man. Well, we heard so much from you in the film. We're not missing out. We heard your voice. And I'm going to put you back in the green room and see if we can figure it out. And then I'm going to turn it over to Roz and we're going to get Roz. Okay, Roz, where we going? Where we going?
Where we going? Well, first of all, we are here to celebrate you. Happy birthday. And amazing introductions, but we also have to introduce you. Sekou writes, yes, filmmaker. Author.
See my drum roll?
Yes, I did. I love the drum roll. And philanthropist. And so you have just had an amazing year, and we want to say congratulations. And we know that we are going to be talking about the film and being in the Roxbury International Film Festival, which was so amazing. But we're just so happy with all the things you're doing, that you are bringing awareness, how you're making a change, and how your films, your podcast, all of it has a theme around really making a change and around racial and social and economic injustice. So we're just so happy to be here to celebrate you, and we see all that you're doing. And so I just wanted to start with that, because we have to give you that introduction and we have to kind of share all of the great work that you're doing.
I'll take it. I'm not gonna hide from it. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a very good year, and I'm happy to be celebrating with all you guys right here and watching at home.
Yes. So we know, as you shared, that this film has evolved which is amazing how it's evolved and how it started off, years ago, and how you brought that back. And we will be getting rushed back, but just kind of what was that spark that started the very beginning of you telling the stories around Driving While Black, or just kind of that racial injustice? What was the spark that started that?
So in terms of this film, I call myself an accidental filmmaker, and I call Rush an accidental star. Like, we had no intention of creating this film. Like, that was not the idea. Our intention that day was to shoot a test drive video. As I said, Christian and I have been on a bunch of test drives together. And so I started off writing about cars, and then that kind of progressed to shooting video of cars. And so our intention that day was just to do this test drive, shoot this video. The verdicts, as I said in the film, the verdicts for Mike Brown and Eric Garner had just come down. So I wanted to pay homage to that by having Rush wear a hoodie. But we were just going to talk about it subtly. Like, we weren't going to really delve into it. But then this racially charged incident happened, and we had to address it full on. I guess we didn't have to. We could have shied away from it, but it felt better to talk about it, because we were trying to talk about the car and we couldn't because we were upset. So it kind of morphed, really. So that's kind of what happened. We didn't have an idea that this is what we wanted to do. It just happened, and then we decided to lean into it.
I love that, leaning into it. And so you had a screening earlier this week. And hello, Lisa, and congratulations on the 23rd Film Festival. How amazing. That is really great to have that, and to be able to tell these wonderful stories about in the Black and Brown community. So, and if you can tell a little bit about just kind of your spark, and also in the film festival, and kind of like the slate that you had, such a great lineup, and some of these social justice films like Sekou that were in this year.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that. Yeah, 23 years. It's a labor of love and a passion to be able to support these filmmakers who are telling these stories. And this year it's been pretty incredible. With streaming, you think we want everyone to be together in a theater, but what it has done is it has allowed for Q&As to sort of turn into mini panel discussions, because they can be longer and we can really talk about the themes of the films. And so many of them, you're right, are social justice. So many have themes around mental health issues, issues around, this particular program that Sekou's film was in was called Trials and Tribulations, and it was really looking at issues surrounding Black men in America right now, from driving while Black to gun violence to fatherhood. So all of these conversations, we had a really deep and rich conversation around a lot of issues. I think the conversation went like 45 minutes, which you would never be able to get in a regular Q&A. So it's really exciting, and we, that's what we want to continue to do, is continue to use films as a catalyst for conversation, because so many of independent filmmakers are making films like that, are making films that aren't just entertainment value, but making films because of personal things that have happened to them, and they really want to get that information out there. And it's a great way to have conversations with people. So we're hoping to go for another 23 years. I don't know if I'll be there, but yeah, it's much loved in Boston, and we really appreciate all the support that we get.
Wow, such a wonderful platform to have that, to see these stories, and as you said, for filmmakers, and we have so many platforms where we're telling these stories now. And I'm going to go to Lisa. I'm sorry, not Lisa, Christian, because I know you're similar to Sekou, and that you also a blogger, and you also are doing really wonderful things. You guys have done test drives together. And so in your test driving and just kind of seeing Sekou's film, have you unfortunately resonated, like your experience in resonating kind of with these stories? Or do you have an experience kind of similar to what we saw in the film?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think it's amazing that he's bringing to light so many different scenarios similar to this that happens to people of color. I mean, you driving a nice car then chances are you're going to get someone looking at you a certain way. Does she belong in that car? Is that car hers? Whose is it? And unfortunately, I've had experiences with test drives where, there have been people that have looked at me like, well, what are you doing in that nice car? And unfortunately, it's something that I hope will change. I just don't really see it changing anytime soon. But I'm just really excited that Sekou has brought to light this unfortunate situation and the fact that change needs to happen.
Yes, definitely. And Maurice, hello.
Hello.
And Sekou shared with us that he has had the privilege of talking to you and being interviewed by you, and just kind of wanted to know, like, what in having those conversations with him about the driving and just some of these incidents that he has been sharing and talking to people and interviewing, because he also has a podcast where he's talking about living while Black, right? All of these different situations that we live every day, whether it's microaggressions. What was something during your interview that kind of caught you when you were talking to Sekou about these situations?
Well, we shared a couple of like different I don't want to call them just anecdotes while doing his lifestyle kind of reporting with me on air. I mean, there's so many. I mean, he's kind of blended it also into his driving and his test driving, and also with historical, values of things that go back to like the Green Book, and and his weaving it with his father, and in terms of his father's stories, or just like family stories. There's so many to recount. I can't necessarily pick just one, but I'm just very, very thankful that he actually shares a lot of this information, and also shares like something that I wouldn't necessarily normally talk about with my audience, in terms of these particular kinds of vehicles being available to you, or some of the features. And it just weaves it in such a really very nice way, and it makes it so appealing to everyone.
So I'm gonna jump in and piggyback on something. So Maurice calls me a hat rack because I wear so many hats, and that's kind of what he's referring to. I got a lot of hats. I got a lot going on, and so we talk about a lot of different things on the show. And also, you mentioned Roz, Living While Black. Yeah, that just dropped today. It is the Sekou Writes podcast. I dropped season 2 today, and that season is dedicated to Living While Black, where I've curated these stories of folks telling their true stories of racism and racial interactions, and how those things affected them. So it's powerful stuff. I dropped 7 episodes, even though I have more, because I feel like people need to take it in bite sizes, because some really intense stories. But thanks for shouting that out, because that's brand new as of today.
Well, look, that was just on time, and I love how Maurice kind of talked about how you weaved kind of like the Green Book and travel and just our experiences overall. And I recall Simply Rides, right? How it started off just kind of showcasing these beautiful cars, and and having people ride in them and having that experience, and how you've taken it to the next level. Not only those experiences, but on the other side of it, those experiences in driving these beautiful cars and affording them, and then having the experience of, do you really deserve to be here, or questioning you, right? So I love how this kind of see your evolution of the Simply Rides and luxury to like what's really what's happening in society.
Yeah, I had to get there, because as you mentioned, it's a very flossy lifestyle kind of space to be in, and it's fun and it's flossy, but being a Black man in that space, I had to think about things a little bit differently than I felt like my other test drivers had to think about things. So just for example, I remember one time I was test driving an Aston Martin, and yes, that's amazing, right? I'm test driving Aston Martin, but I had to get gas, right? And so I went to this gas station, and you would think it's just no big deal. Well, everything about an Aston Martin is different, and I couldn't figure out how to open the gas tank. And so I'm a Black man in a $250,000 car, and I look like I'm stumbling and bumbling because I don't know how to get the gas tank open. And I got terrified because I saw people watching me in that situation and starting to get their phones out. And I was like, oh. So what I did is I called Aston Martin. And I said, listen, you guys are going to stay here on speakerphone. Don't go nowhere. You're gonna walk me through how to open the gas tank, but stay on the phone though, in case something happens. And I felt like the other people on the test drive didn't have to think about that. Like that wasn't part of the way they saw the world. And so I think this has been a gradual progression of me leaning into these true stories of how I interact with cars and how the police interact with us around cars.
Very true. And I hope we got Russ back. Hi, Russ.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, we hear you. Yes.
We got you. We're back.
Great.
Well, congratulations on being the accidental star. And we just watched the short again. And I remember the first time I watched it, I was one of the things that just kind of hearing your story, but when you brought in the story about your son, right? And you were sharing that story about him and the substitute teacher. And so I was thinking about your experience, but also as your experience, how you also have to prepare your son, right? And so if you can just kind of share like that, your experience of after, like, so you guys went to do a test drive and you had this experience. When you saw the film and what Sekou did with it, what was your feeling behind it? What did you think when you first saw it?
Well, Sekou will tell you when about being an accidental star. Yeah, my first feeling was, you know what? I don't want to be the star. I don't want to be in it. But I gave Koo a lot of pushback, but I realized, in doing it after that, it was such a needed piece because it was also such a common experience. And as a father, and at the time, my son was really young then, but it really made me think about, fast forwarding him to, at the time, 7 years, when he would be driving and having to experience and be exposed to the same kind of situation that in that 7-year period, I was very doubtful would stop or would end or would change. So it really made me think more about not just this common experience that we all share, but as a father to a son and my daughter also, how am I going to protect them while also allowing them to live outside of the bubble? So yeah, being the accidental star really pushed me further into fatherhood and kind of preparing them for the moment that I know they're going to have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so I just will pose a question to all of you guys as we see these stories and this, what we're seeing these stories and we're bringing awareness, right? But what change? How do you think that changes it? How can we push it to the next level, right? So we're sharing these, and we already know in our communities these things are happening. And just wanted to kind of share your thoughts on just kind of when we share our stories and see these things, how do you think, what's the next step to us really starting to see change?
I'll kick that one off and let everybody go that wants to. So this film, this accidental film, has been reaching across the aisle, as I say. Like, we've been invited to screen this film by allies, and that's very unexpected for me. And so Rush and I have had the experience of talking with allies about this. And I think what has served us well is the fact that the test drive experience is a common experience. And this film also is at the beginning of my play. And in that play, I talk about me buying my first car. And that's something that comes up when we do these ally screenings. Because when I bought my first car, I was almost beaten by the police the first time I sat in it. And what makes that universal is the fact that so many people remember buying their first car and how exciting that was. And so to have that moment go from excitement to fear is something that people can relate to. So to circle back to your question, I think what is helpful is making it relatable, making our experiences relatable. And that's why I did the Living While Black season of the Sekou Writes podcast, to just put these stories out in a way that you can just identify with the story and what's happening and empathize with us that way.
So true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that story, I mean, it's all about storytelling, right? I mean, even if you're only reaching one person, that's one person who can tell another person. And that's what we've always sort of thought about. And if we're not creating those stories, then the narrative's being told in a different way, right? I mean, we are compelled to be able to counter narratives, and films like this do that. They help bring and raise issues that aren't being raised in mainstream media, or you're seeing a different version of it in mainstream media. So if you have the opportunity to create and tell the story from that perspective, you're doing everyone a service. And, I mean, especially short films. I mean, I love short films and short films are really hard to make. To go from a beginning, middle, and end in a 10-minute is not an easy feat. But I like them because you can use them for educational purposes. You can chunk them up and use them in classrooms. You can put together a screening series with a bunch of them and then have a really deep and rich conversation in all places, whether it's in libraries, whether it's at film festivals, whether it's in corporations. To be able to use film as a medium to do that, it changes minds. It really does. You can't walk away from a film like this and other films that are, that show the reality of the Black experience in America from our perspective, and not be moved by that. And that's on us. That's important for us to be telling those stories, to be talking about those stories, to be having those conversations with our kids, so that they're not being led by the falsity of much of the mainstream media out there today. So I do think it changes people. I have heard that from people who walk out of a screening and say, I had no idea, I didn't know anything about that, I think differently about A, B, and C. So I know that we're touching people. So we just need to keep creating our own content.
Definitely agree. Go ahead. After you.
I was just going to say, and to that point, and even Sekou's earlier point about creating allyship, I think it's important that these messages are out there, because just imagine if, this was shown at police stations across the country, if this was shown, in certain corporations, in certain boardrooms, in classrooms. I think the more that this message is out there, the more people understand what it's like to drive as a Black driver. I think you'll be able to change perspectives, but also create allyship. And we know that nothing really changes unless we have everybody collectively, working towards that goal. And that goal is, the fact that Black people are just like everybody else. Like, we should be treated like everybody else.
Yes.
Let me just say something real quick before you go, Maurice. So, Christian, thanks for saying that. And also that reminded me, there's a doctor, a psychologist in Atlanta who has started using my Living While Black stories as part of her work, because she got called to do diversity consulting after George Floyd, right? And she was doing the lecture part. She already had the lecture part down. But when she started playing my Living While Black stories, she said she could see on people's faces them shift. Like when they got into the story, back to the storytelling, as Lisa said, like once they got into the story, that helped break down the barriers they had, the resistance they had to the theory of diversity, when they could just hear the story and hear the emotion in our voices when we describe these things that have happened to us. So yeah, I'm in classrooms and boardrooms inadvertently. It's out there. People are spreading the work in a way that's positive and helpful.
As you should be. I mean, as this piece should be. I think I can't say what all these three people or four people have already said. It's definitely relatable. We definitely need, as a person who's in media, more narratives from us that show what we go through, and yes, the relatable spaces that could actually be in, whether it be training, diversity training, police education. It's short enough yet rich enough that it impacts people, and we need lots of media. I mean, I shudder to think that how many more media representations there are, because there probably are so many that we have gone through in lots of different facets. But this is needed. I can't agree more.
Thank you.
I just want to go to the more part. Father Maurice is talking about. He's absolutely right. A part of what helps in by sharing these stories and being educational is just the sheer quantity, the sheer volume of the number of stories. You know, we all get that this is a shared experience, but the sheer quantity and the volume of these stories that are shared across different geographical areas in the same country, it actually validates how common it is. And I think that's part of the impact that it really has on others. You know, most times, if you hear one of these similarly situated stories that we all have, it can be easily dismissed because you're only hearing it one time, maybe from one person, happenstance in a conversation. But when the sheer volume of them are shared throughout social media and movies and short films, it is something that has to be accepted by others, and then hopefully, once it's accepted and understood, then we'll be able to do more about it. So, kudos to you for the sheer volume of them, brother. Keep them going.
Keep it going. Yes. And so one of the things when we talk about it being relatable and we need to tell these stories, very rarely do we talk about the other side of it, right? We kind of shared in the beginning how all of us have kind of had some level of this experience with someone very close. But when you've had these experience, what do you do on the other side as far as like self-care? How do you take care of yourself, like mentally when you have that? I mean, I've had just scares with cops coming up, like in college. I just had a security guard where my car was hit by a bus on campus, and it's a long highway. It was a long intersection. So I did go when it was a yellow light, but the cop literally came and didn't ask if I was okay and just like started just going in on me, never if I was okay. And so I just remember like feeling like no support at that time. I was injured. And so I'm just kind of thinking like then I was really young in college. Like I didn't think about how to take care of myself and how I was feeling guilty and I didn't get the support I needed. So is there anything like what do you guys do for your mental health, for your self-care when those kind of things happen?
Yeah, I'm gonna kick that one off too, because it's an interesting segue, because we were just talking about Living While Black, these stories like what happened in Test Driving While Black. And that happened spontaneously. I did not put out an all call for Living While Black stories. It just started happening as people saw Test Driving While Black and as people saw Brown Boy Mad, they started sharing their stories with me. And one of the first stories, actually the very first story, was from my friend. And when he submitted it, as I started to listen, I started to smile, because he told me this story before. I recognized the opening sentences of the story. He told me the story before, and he made it hilarious. Like it was this hilarious story. And so I'm expecting to laugh. And it wasn't funny at all. It was the same story, but he had used humor to protect himself and me from the story every time he told it before. But this time, after seeing Test Driving While Black and having like kind of unmasked himself, he told the same story in a raw, real way that made me realize that I too am hiding things behind other things. Like for me, I tell the story about me buying my first car and the police accosting me through spoken word. Like that's the way that I can take a step back from it. But I told that same story without the spoken word, and it came out entirely different. And so there's so many different ways that we wear the veil that grins and lies to protect ourselves from these types of stories, not only for ourselves, but protect each other too, because they're very painful.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in. Trauma is real. Black trauma is real. And I feel like when it comes to mental wellness, when you've lived it, it's very difficult to talk about it. It's very difficult to express it. It's very difficult to see it on the screen, to be quite honest. Like just having conversations and seeing, how moments of racism can really affect you, and not just in that moment. It has residual effects. I've never had a situation. I mean, I've been pulled over once or twice, maybe 3 times. I can't remember. But one thing that I recall as far as police interaction is, as Black people, we really don't trust the police. I don't see how we can immediately do that. That's something that's going to take time. But I also do believe that there's an opportunity there. And just bringing it back to the film, I think it comes back to allyship and back to making that connection and having those conversations, because right now we're not having enough of those. And I think the more we have those conversations, the more we make it normal to have those conversations, I think eventually the better off we'll be.
Definitely. Yeah, that's so true. When you talk about just kind of our community and our relationships, with police officer, I grew up in Virginia, so it was kind of different. But when you come to the city, in certain cities, how it's so negative and how we react to that. And I just think it's interesting because as we go through those experiences, and Sekou shared, like sometimes when we're telling a story, you kind of make it humorous, or you're just, you're glad you got out the situation. But then I think when the next incidents happen and you may have a reaction, you're not even realizing that you're having a reaction because of the last time. And just so much of what our community does, we just kind of go through it, right? We deal with it and we just kind of move on. But I do think it's really important to kind of talk about what that healing is. And just kind of thinking about when we talk about just storytelling, right? And we're telling our stories, whether it's racial, social, economic injustice. What stories would you like to see or like to create? Because I know we have folks on here who are creators, as well as Lisa, who has a platform that's showing these stories. What stories would you like to see now that we are having more platforms of doing this? Or what do you see like as your next projects if you are creating new projects?
I would like
I feel like I see them. I feel like I see so many stories. I mean, I have 80 films in the festival this year. That's pretty crazy.
That's
it's
awesome.
Actually insane. It's absolutely insane. I mean, in a normal year, we probably have 68, but I have to tell you, we had to leave like 10 of them on the cutting room floor just because they wouldn't fit. That's how many stories are being told by Black and brown people, or even not, just stories that really affect our lives, celebrate our lives, explain in a great way our lives, unearth stories of people and places that I've never even known before. I learn every single time I do this festival. Been doing it for 23 years. I learn something new all the time. All the time, I learn something new. And so to say what stories do I want to see, I just want to see more of what I see. I want to see stories of, Black people struggling with mental health and finding help. I want to see stories of fathers and sons and resolving differences. I want to continue to see stories of resolution and hope and resilience. It has been a really hard year, and it's been a hard 400 years, but this year in particular, and microaggressions, and even if you're not pulled over, there are so many other things that have been gone on, with Black Lives Matter and with everything else, that you need to practice self-care, and you need to figure that out. And practicing self-care may be going to a therapist, which Black people don't do, but we need to understand that that's okay. That there are people that you can talk to that are outside of your family or outside of your faith that can actually really be helpful. And we have a lot of stories in the film festival that are like that says it's okay to do that. I mean, we need to have more of that. And, independent film festivals are a really good place to find those stories, and to be able to give platforms for those stories, because you're not going to see them in mainstream media. And we need to say it's all right for men to cry, right? It's all right for men to seek help. It's all right, for women to be strong and smart and, and really good at STEAM. For me, I mean, I feel blessed that I am able to see all of these stories. I wish everyone could see these 80 films, because they all are truly miraculous. And you know what? Next year, there's going to be 80 more. That's the crazy thing. With the advent of technology, there's even more out there. So the question becomes is, how can we create more platforms for people to see them? How can we, whether it's more festivals, whether it's more, streaming opportunities, whether it's Sekou's show, your show, Christian, whoever's show, Maurice, whoever has a show, start talking to filmmakers and independent filmmakers and writers. Bring them on your show, show their films. I mean, that's really, they're out there. There are a lot of them out there. And if we just can provide a platform for them, it would be unbelievable to be able to share these films all over the country and all over the world, actually.
So I don't want to miss the opportunity to thank you for making my film number 80. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Thank you for being generous enough to bring me back, because I learned so much. When I first came to the film festival, it was really kind of still a video about the car. It was, I was still doing my job as an automotive journalist, and it took me a while to lean into what this story really is. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to come back and make it about the race and racism that we experience. So thanks for having me back, and thanks for having me involved 2 times. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. There's a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th.
Yeah.
When it becomes the feature. When it becomes feature film.
Don't give me hype now. Don't give me hype. All right, back to you, Roz.
Yeah, I really love the format of your film about having Russ kind of talking about that. Well, the interview, right? You starting off with the interview, and then Russ talking about his experience, and then showing like clips of what we've seen in the last couple of months of what's going on, and it really ties well together. And so, when I would like to see more like films like yours, as well as I also kind of think about Justin, I want to say his name right, well, Peel, Get Out. Because I think when that came out and he talked about social films right around social ills of the world, I thought it was really great, just kind of how he told that story, and it was so unique. And I want to see more of those. I want to see more of our stories in sci-fi and romance and love. And I think you're so right, Lisa, in that we need to where are the platforms, because people are writing, people are producing, people are creating. So these stories are getting out, and it is, for me, I think like last year I saw like 2 or 3 like love stories on and I was like, look at this, like we actually have Black love. So that's really cool. And so what I would also love for Christian, like if you have a project, you're working on a project, I would love to hear like what you guys are creating too as well. We would like to also hear what you guys are working on.
Well, I'm kind of staying busy, still running the blog. I actually have a series that I'm highlighting hybrid vehicles, because there are not a lot of Black people talking about green, sustainable vehicles right now. And it's the way of the future. So I have a series entitled #HybridSummer, where I highlight some of the newest or the latest hybrid vehicles and do reviews on candidlykristen.com. So that's what I'm working on these days, and I'm really excited about the future, and once again just seeing what Sekou does next.
Yes. He's a lot of our inspiration, right? We're like, what is he doing now? I'm like, so what are you doing? Like, oh, did I mention that he had an ebook drop on Juneteenth? Let me get the Belinda's.
Yeah. So thanks for the shout out. Yeah. So Keith Major, he's a celebrity photographer. He shot everyone from Beyonce, Veronica Webb, just major stars. Anyway, he happened to shoot me and my jewelry, and we started talking about this project that was languishing on his hard drive, kind of behind the scenes stories of his photo shoots. And so I ghosted it for him, which means I ghost wrote it, but he was generous enough to allow me to be a co-author. And so we dropped the first chapter of the book on Juneteenth. It's called Belinda's Vaccine. It's, I don't want to give it away, but it's available on Amazon. So check it out, Belinda's Vaccine by Keith Major and Sekou Wrights. Thanks for the plug, Roz. Good looking out.
I love, I'm like, what are you working on now? Oh yeah, like it's dropping Juneteenth. I love this. Like, and again, yeah, very good year. And so, and Maurice, what are you working on?
I mean, right now, when I'm not necessarily trying to produce my show in local access media, I've actually been tapped to produce a local film about some residents here in the city of Cambridge So I'm doing some profiles on some local area African American born blacks in my city, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. My first kind of foray into doing a film. So wish me luck. I don't know if it's actually going to be film festival worthy, but I'm looking forward to it to tell a story about my people.
Get with Lisa. Get with Lisa.
I was going to say,
Like I said, I'm
if
not
it's
sure
film
if it's
festival worthy.
Yes, it is. Claim
I
it.
know. I'm like,
all right,
yes,
I'm
you're
gonna
going to
speak it
go,
into
yes, it
existence.
is. It is.
I'll speak it into existence. As my girlfriend says, to talk about your wellness thing. Wellness, she always says, wellness is your birthright. So I'd love to see more stories about, as Lisa echoed, said about people just getting a chance to heal themselves, or just like just showing examples on screens, big and small, or all different sizes, about us healing and getting closer to healing and understanding what that means for ourselves.
Yes, we do need to see more stories like that. And I think what was also kind of heartwarming for me is just kind of seeing folks that we look up to, whether celebrities or just people in business, kind of sharing some of their challenges, as well as, having organizations like Taraji P. Henson, and just kind of like sharing their stories, and and normalizing it, right? And so I think a lot of those have come out, but we haven't actually seen a lot of those in films. But we do have people coming out and talking more about mental health awareness, and having foundations that are supporting and saying, yes, therapy is good. Therapy is good.
Right.
And we need to do more of that in our community.
I mean, we also need to see a lot more Black love in our community. I mean, Sylvie's Love was
Yes,
such a
that's one of the ones I was
beautiful,
talking about.
yeah,
That was a very
such a
good film.
beautiful film this year that really didn't get the love that it should have as far as distribution goes. But I mean, that's also part of it. And when I'm talking about distributing films and finding distribution avenues and self distribution, and collaborating and connecting with bloggers and influencers and people who really are on the pulse of what's going on. That's part of that distribution, and that's really important too.
It is. I remember back in the day when people used to have the emails of Black movies coming out. We got to get to the theaters. Remember? It's like, we have to get to the theaters and support this. And so I do that with my family, especially if it's something that's showing like on a holiday. I'm like, okay, I got to go buy like 20 tickets because we're going to go see this. We got to support it first.
Yeah, I mean, we
So
still
I
need to
still
do
try to have
that
that mindset.
once we can. Once COVID, that was a problem too, right? I mean, COVID hit, and there were all these, like, the Photograph came out, and there were all these really great movies that were gonna have that opportunity to do that, and then and then they all ended up streaming. So we're trying to find ways that we can bring some of those to the big screen. We just tonight did an outdoor screening of Jingle Jangle, David and Lynn Talbert's film that came out over
That was beautiful.
Christmas. It's beautiful, and they're like, it hasn't even been screened on the big screen. I'm like, we'll do it. We did a free outdoor screening of it. It's things like that. Like, I know it's on Netflix, and I know, but some films need to be seen on the big screen and be seen in community. And if you have the opportunity to do that, to partner with someone who can do like an outdoor screening of that, it's those little things that make a really big difference, I think.
Oh man, I would have loved to see that on a big screen.
It was a little chilly here in Boston, but everyone.
The costume was great. I mean, the story was great. The costuming, the music, everything.
Beautiful. And they are just they're wonderful. And again, it's championing these independent storytellers. David's been writing the script for 10 years and has not had the opportunity to make it into a film. And then, it happened. And so it's, you're right. It's like, tell everybody so we can champion them, right? That's really important.
Yes. And so we have Russ. If you could tell us like what you're working on now.
I'm Sekou's guy, so I work on whatever Sekou tells me to work on.
All right. We always need that.
Yeah, but one of the things that I'm doing personally is really trying to tie affordable housing for minorities, and making sure that they have decent homes that they can live in actually small rural towns. I think it's always been a misnomer, unfortunately, for minorities that have lower incomes, that they cannot also have nice spaces. So what I'm trying to do is move from just calling it affordable housing to nice homes for people that can't afford it. That's all.
Thank you. Yes, we definitely need that. The housing is so important, especially with the unemployment rates that we have now and people being displaced even more.
Sure.
Yes. And so I'm going to take it back to Sekou. So Sekou, what's next? What's next
What's
for?
now? What's now?
What's
There's so many
next?
things going on right now. So I'm really excited about the Living While Black season of the Sekou Writes podcast. It's not where I expected things to go. Season 1 is all about cars, but season 2 is about living while Black, and it just feels like the right time, and it feels like the right way to create allyship and to change hearts and minds and to change the world a little bit. Like it feels good to be in the service of others in that way. And this is the first birthday I've had that's been really about being in service to others in terms of the film, also in terms of this birthday challenge I've been doing. For those of you that don't know, I decided to do a run streak for the month of June, my birthday month, which means I decided to jog a mile every day for the month of June. And people started joining in, and I was like, what? So
That's a great
people
idea.
started joining in and deciding to exercise every day in some way for the month of June. And so I know I got Rush and Kristen, both of them are in. Both of them are in. You've been doing your exercises. All right.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you guys.
So it's up to 42 people. It just started with me, and we're up to 42 people. So I'm grateful to be an inspiration to others to move their bodies, to be responsible to themselves for getting fit and healthy. So anyway, the point is, in a lot of different ways, I feel like this particular birthday has been about being of service to others as opposed to being of service to me. And having had that experience for the first time, it just feels very gratifying. So I just want to do more of that work in all the different ways that I can, in terms of social justice, in terms of fitness, in terms of whatever else I can think of. I want to do my best to be in service to others.
That's awesome. What day are you on the fitness challenge?
This is actually day 24, because today's the 24th day of the month, and I started June 1st, even though I wasn't calling it a fitness challenge. But I was doing I realized that like the third or fourth day that I'd been jogging a mile every day. So then I called it a fitness challenge and announced it. And the first time I announced it, someone else was like, "Oh, I'm with that." And I was like, what you mean though? She's like, "Well, I'm going to do something also." And it just kind of like a snowball rolling downhill, just picked up a lot of steam. We've got someone who's 81 years old in the challenge who's exercising every day. So I'm just really blown away by how that's taken off.
You've been really good at building community and getting folks like up to say, "Yes, I'm with you."
Yeah, that's a gift.
Rope, so. Okay.
That really is a gift.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It just kind of happened. I'll take it.
It is a gift, too, and I appreciate it. You said you're on day 24. I want to just jump in and say that while it's a gift, it's also something that anybody can do. I'm on, I think day 19 is when I jumped in. So Sekou's being modest. He's saying a mile that he jogs, right? But there are levels to this for him. He runs, others jog, some walk. I've added a new stage. I stroll, and I'm happy with my stroll. So I'm right 19 days of strolling in.
I can get with that.
Fine.
I can get with
that's
the stroll.
Great.
I can get with the stroll. I can do that.
Yeah. It's moving, right? It's moving
every day. Because it's
I'm
every
applauding
day
y'all.
that matters. That's the real thing. It's the everyday part. It doesn't even really matter how much you do, but if you can commit to doing it every day, it changes something in the wiring of your brain. If you can stick to it, it really does make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's levels to this. There's levels to this.
It's definitely levels. Because I saw it on Sekou's page and I was cheering you guys on. I've been cheering for you every day. I want to jump in, but as you said, Russ, all of us have, like, he's jogging, some people are walking, some people, I've been the one cheering you on, but I would love to join you. I've never been a runner.
Jump in, look at this. Somebody just said, Lenora just said she wasn't ready, but she did it anyway. Jump in.
Yeah.
Jump in.
Yes,
run.
that's the
You could
move.
ride, you could skip, you could jump rope.
Absolutely. Because you're getting in late too, so you only don't have that many days at the end of the month.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
get in there.
Do it now until the 30th.
Do it now,
Love
right?
it.
Peer pressure.
It's peer. I'm a yoga kind of hula hoop girl, but I'll try. I can do the walking. I like the stroll. I can do the stroll.
That works.
Definitely.
The hula hoop works. Someone else is doing the hula hoop actually in the group.
I think that's awesome.
And that's not easy. Hula hooping isn't easy.
Right.
It's not. But Russ brought up another point, which I like, and I think I said in the beginning. Sekou is a very humble, dapper dude. Yeah, he is, right? And so as we are kind of about to close, I would love everyone to go around and just show Sekou some love. Yes, don't you sit there. You sit there, Sekou.
We'll give you virtual hugs.
Just like what inspires you, or just, we're going to close off with this celebration of your birthday, for you having, again, an amazing year. These are stories that are going to live on. You have talked about, being in your 4th film festival, how Lisa has seen the evolution of this. So we just want to say we appreciate you. You inspire us, and we're right there with you. So yes, and I'll let the next person go.
I'll jump in. I'll take it. Yeah, Sekou is definitely super humble. And I don't know, how long have we known each other, Koo?
Oh, don't do that. Wow.
So I met Sekou last week.
Last week.
But since last week, I've always been pushing him to say, hey, man, I love your humble spirit, but there are some things that maybe you could just shout from the rooftop, because we all need to know it and we all need to hear it. Such a kind, driven young man that he is, I need to hear more of the Sekou voice. About the humility of Sekou, I got a Sekou story. I can do it in 30 seconds, I think. He and I were on the phone. We've been talking for a couple of hours about absolutely nothing. But we were talking, chit-chatting, being friends, and finally Koo says, well, I'm going to go and get some breakfast. Well, it's, midnight where I am. You're going to get breakfast? He ends the call. He's like, yeah, I'm in Thailand. And he hung up. Who does that?
Passport ready.
For 2 hours, and he doesn't tell me until the end of this conversation that he's in Thailand. That's a humble guy there. Love that brother. Happy birthday too, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Rush, for looking out.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Get that feature done. The first time I met you, it was with the, when was it? Was the first time at the film festival?
Yeah.
Or was it, and then the golf classic.
Yes.
Yes, because we were doing that the golf film screening in Falmouth.
Right.
With your wonderful family.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep doing. I mean, it is really inspirational. You are quite the entrepreneur. Every time I look at your Facebook page, it's something else, whether it's a sweatshirt or the beads during Black Panther. I mean, it's awesome. But I mean, really, you're very inspirational. You inspire a lot of people, and I'm glad to know you. So happy birthday.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And just to fill it in for the folks who don't know, my dad and my stepmom started a golf tournament called the Morrison Golf Classic. And Lisa was kind enough to come to the Golf Classic. And we did a screening of the early version of this film at the Classic. And so that was a lot of fun. It was great to bring a quote unquote film festival, even though it was just the one film, to the Classic. So I appreciate it. Thanks for all your generous spirit. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm going to jump in here. Sekou, I've known you for
2 weeks.
Okay, that part. And ever since those 2 weeks, you've been a stand-up guy. You've been an inspiration. You've been a trailblazer, change agent, and I'm just really excited to see, what happens next for you. So thank you for allowing me to be a part to celebrate you, and happy birthday. It's like what, 21st birthday?
Yeah. I'm legal. I'm legal
There
now. Hey, Christian was just in town in Nashville. She hit me up like, she said, I'm coming to Nashville. And I was like, all right, so let me know your date. She was like, no, I'm here now. I'm here right now. So I talk about a jet setter. So I went over to the hotel and we had coffee, some ginger beer or something. But it was great to see you in person because we outside now. We outside.
It's open.
All right.
Yes.
Well, happy birthday to you, Sekou. Thank you for letting me be part of your life's journey. I wouldn't even say reinventing yourself. You share yourself in various art you do. You are your art, and you share yourself with everyone. And I couldn't be more thankful that you share it with me. So I love the example you set, that you can be flexible, and you can change, and you can wear many hats, and you can still do everything with a smile. And you can also create for not just yourself, but for everybody, and to be able to grow. So thank you very much for that. And
thanks for that.
For being you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. For being a hat rack.
Hey, man,
all my various hats.
You wear hats better than me, man. You get that hair, so you can wear them kind of like a little bit better than me right now.
I appreciate it. And I'm glad you said that, because I have been wearing hats for most of my life. I've been juggling for most of my life. But what seems to be making things come together is the fact that now I'm directing things to other people. I'm directing it to being in service. And that seems to be the glue that's all of a sudden connecting the various hats together. And so that's new. And I feel like that's why it seems like so many things are happening for me right now. It's because I am figuring out different ways to be in service to other folks. Including the Hero ministry. I forgot to talk about that, but Hero is, it means helping everyone reach optimism. It's a ministry, we're calling it now, of me helping the unhoused by giving them brand new t-shirts and hoodies and socks and other items. And so that's been a joy to do. And that happened during the pandemic. So that's my pandemic project. I'm excited to be doing that work.
Yes, I'm glad you got to that. I was going to mention that. I don't know if I got through, I think I got through half of your list, but I wanted to just say happy birthday. And I'm just so proud of you. And you are I remember last year you were #doing. I love that you just trailblaze and you move ahead and you're a man of action. And as you are sharing your gifts, you're sharing them with the community and doing really great work. And so, as your t-shirt says, and as you always say, you want to be, the best hero and really help others. And we see that every day. So now I'm going to let you end and wrap up as you would like on your celebration birthday panel.
I'm sending checks to everybody. I appreciate these great comments about me. I'm feeling a little blushy.
I have Venmo. You can Venmo me. You can Venmo me.
All right, yeah. Venmo, y'all. But I appreciate it. Thanks for celebrating my birthday with me in this way that feels like a way to be of service in the space of social justice. I'm grateful for it. Grateful for all of you. And grateful for all of you at home that tuned in, watched the replay. If you missed the film, you can just fast forward back to the beginning or reverse back to the beginning. You can see the film and share it if you appreciate it. Share it. Tell someone about it, because this is just about really changing people's minds and exposing them to maybe what we experience on a daily basis. Also, check out the Living While Black season of the Sekou Writes podcast. I'm really excited about it. I haven't even told my story yet, but to Rush's point, these stories, there's so many of them. Once I told my story, I realized I had more. And Rush has had more. He's in town right now. He's in Nashville right now, and he's had more stories recently. It unfortunately, it never ends. But us telling these stories can help things start to end. So, again, thanks for being here. I'm gonna play my little music on the outro, and I'll see you guys later.
It's a nice meeting everyone.
Bye, folks. Have a good night, and keep doing. Be a hero. Be your own hero, and remember that now is better than perfect.
#doing.
Got it.
folks. Deuces. Happy birthday to me. Send me money. Later.